that are to come in the spring and summer. We ask that you would bless our county, our state, and our country as we fight through this virus and hopefully see brighter days ahead. And as always, the Lord guide us in all that we do here. May it be pleasing to you. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Y'all come in.
Come on in. There we go.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Well, good. We just got started. Justin Lamb had reached out and said that he wanted to bring y'all to court to be recognized, and I know your coach very well. Grew up with him, and as a community, when we get to sit back and watch you guys play. I know we were talking about it in one meeting after the tournament, but it says a lot. I can go back to, I remember Lisa Legg. You remember that team that went to state? And anytime a community that has a team that go to state, any sport, to recognize them is important because that's a feat. To have a team and to work together and play hard. Even though you didn't win the championship, I think a lot of us think you did, but you still worked as a team, you worked hard, and you want to recognize that. So, do y'all have anything that y'all want to say?
Hey, it was a pleasure and a joy to watch y'all play this season. Y'all did a great job. We're proud of you. So, Cason, I remember when you used to come to Judge's office and pester the heck out of me, and proud of you, proud of all of you.
Y'all have a very bright future ahead of you, regardless of what path you choose. Thank you for a great season.
And I'll just echo that. And I think, I can't remember if it was Cason, maybe somebody was interviewed the other day, it might have been. You said maybe you don't know that it's sunk in yet. And I don't know that you'll be able to completely get it until you come back in 5 and 10 years. I know Coach Beth mentioned being on the one boys team from 87 or 88, yeah, 89. Sorry, I know you're not that old because you're only a year past me, but you know, like Judge mentioned, I mean, I can remember those teams and every one of those girls that were on those teams in 84 and especially when we were there in the late 80s and early 90s. So you'll figure that out eventually when everybody knows who you are 20 years from now. So I just think that's incredible, and so congratulations to all of you. Thanks.
One of the other hats that I wear is president of the Marshall County Athletic Foundation. And there's a 10-year waiting period for induction into the Marshall County Athletic Hall of Fame. And I can guarantee you that all of you are going to, as a team, are going to be first ballot Hall of Famers. So just mark your calendar, 10 years, 2031, y'all make plans to be back in the Shadowin Performing Arts Center because we're going to induct you all into the Hall of Fame, and you all deserve it very much. So thank you for a great season.
Bonnie brings up a good point. I know Jenna, my daughter, she's 12, and she loves basketball. And these young girls out there, they look up to you guys. They see you guys go to the state and the hard work you put in, the performance you do. Like he says, you really don't know how impactful you are to those young girls in our community. So, congratulations.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we brought you here for a reason, so let's get a photo and get y'all on the paper.
Again, like you haven't. Get in the back or something.
Yeah, come on, bring them up here.
Monty's is not.
My,
Monty's is not off.
There we go. Now y'all angle in towards each other. Squeeze tight. Okay. Judge push you in right here. You in right there. You two come on in here. Justin, you're going in there too. Okay, front row, if y'all kind of come down some. Yep, there we go. Ready, get in. Okay, get in. Let's see. Jason, scoot you in closer. Let's squat down with the girls. There we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Okay, we're not putting here. We on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. April 20th, 2021. We'll go ahead and call the court to order. I don't see Chad. I thought Chad was going to be here, but we'll go ahead in the correspondence. March 21st, personnel changes.
March 2021, personnel changes. Ray Chumber, retired 3/31/21. William Keeling, termed 3/27/21. Andrea Mosler, termed 3/9/21.
All right. Item B on the correspondence, CALEA accreditation. And I've asked Chris to be here. The accreditation for CALEA, and I'm just going to read you some points on this. It's very tough to get, but it is for law enforcement and communication centers. And the Commission of the Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA, that's what it stands for. It was created in '79 and accrediting authority through the joint efforts of law enforcement's major executive associations, and that's the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, National Associations of Black Law Enforcement Executives, National Sheriff's Association, and Police Executives Research Forum. There's only one accreditation in the state of Kentucky, and we got a grant. Why don't you come up, Chris, and just talk about that? We got a grant to cover a portion of this.
So it's one of the things that when y'all hired me that I said we needed to do to reach out and be marketable to other communities is have that accreditation in law enforcement dispatch, have one in fire dispatch, and then take care of EMS as well and sell a service. So we finally got this done. We've been working for almost 2 years to upgrade policies, update policies, and do those things. When I reached out to join, they mentioned that they had a small community grant program which would cover half the cost. I applied for that grant, and we got half the cost covered. So when we got the letter last week, we were officially started the process. So we are considered a CALEA accredited agency in self-assessment now. So we're self-assessing our policies, trying to make sure we hit those standards, writing policies for the standards that we don't have. And we have 3 years to complete the process, or 2 years to complete the process, I'm sorry, to actually become a full accredited agency. So we've got the policies written for the most part. There is about 4 police departments in Kentucky that are accredited. They're mostly Northern Kentucky agencies, Covington, Taylor Mill, a few other small ones. Lexington Metro's Communication Center is the only other 911 center inside Kentucky that's accredited with this accreditation, and then the Department of Criminal Justice Training. So it's pretty much all that have this one, and this is the gold standard in public safety. If you're going to get accredited, this is the one that you get. So we worked really, really hard to get to this point. We have 9 chapters worth of policies that are pretty in-depth. Learning curve with them has been quite a bit, but folks are are stepping up and doing what they need to do, and we're proud of them. So they've done a heck of a job.
And just some of the bullets on this accreditation, staunch support from government officials, stronger defense against civil lawsuits. And I think that's, from my years, that was important because obviously we can look nationally and see lawsuits coming out from all across the country. But reduce risk and liability exposure. So obviously that's going to help with CAECO. They're going to like that. And greater accountability within the agency. So there's a lot of benefits to this. And it's always good to see any of our agencies or departments try to strive to get to that level. So, but the funding, what was that total? Was it 6,000?
It was 6,000. We got it's the 5,000 for the accreditation process, which they gave us through the grant, and then the 6,000 was in my budget to do it. So we got half of it paid for, the first part. So
All right.
it's
And the amount of work that goes on. So this isn't just a pay to play, so to speak. There is a lot of work, and you have to maintain that standard once you get it.
Yep.
So I want you guys to understand that this is a big challenge for our community because it does benefit our community.
been a lot of late nights writing policies.
And, I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on this, but there are things that we are doing in our community with our communications and 911 that we have raised the bar for the state. And I'm not going to get too much into that because it's still ongoing. But when you set a standard for the state that says something, and this community is doing it in Western Kentucky, and we should be proud of that. And I'll get more into detail on that when the time comes. But I'm very excited to see what is going on behind the scenes and the hard work that's being put in place, mostly because of the training and the education, but the individuals that we have performing those tasks. It sets a standard. So I'm glad that Marshall County is leading that charge. So, all right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
That's just the correspondence to let you guys know. That is going to be a task to accomplish that. So we'll be watching from the sidelines on that. Old business, approved the minutes of April 6th meeting.
So move.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, update probation and parolees.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of confusion on, I think, everybody's part, including mine, that when the Commonwealth Attorney moved out to the new building there at the north end of town, that probation and parole was going to be occupying more space than they were before. Well, that's actually not the case. They just moved. So they're not actually occupying more space than they were before. In fact, they're occupying a little bit less, I believe, according to some measurements. But anyway, we're currently under a lease with them until June of 2022. So there was no need to renew or amend the existing contract on that.
And that's more so in regards to AOC, correct?
Correct, yep.
Update TVA easements.
Okay, so I think it was Brittany last Tuesday, is that right? That Brittany and I were on a Zoom call with two representatives from TVA. The Buckhorn Bay easement has expired, and so what they went over with us, and Brittany chime in if I say anything that's not correct, or if you want to add anything, but what they went over with us is a couple of options for renewing our continued oversight of that area. One would be to renew an easement, and one of the ladies said that the lowest cost that she had ever seen for the renewal of an easement of this type was $20,000, and that would be borne by us if we chose that route. The other option was a license, and she said that that is typically not much over the application fee, which is $1,500. So obviously a huge difference in price between the two. Brittany and I told those two ladies that obviously we can't speak for the court, but I have a feeling I know which way that we would be leaning, but obviously that's in the province of the court to decide on that. The renewal of the easement involves all kinds of bureaucratic red tape like environmental studies, appraisals, site plans, future plans, all that kind of stuff that you would expect from the federal bureaucracy. The license is a lot less involved. On the other hand, the license does not give quite as much protection as an easement does, but they assured us that they've never had any problems with any entity that has entered into a license. They're not looking to come in and swoop and kick us out if something goes wrong. They want to continue to be good partners with us, and so we just need to let them know which route that the court wants to go on that. And in the meantime, they're supposed to be sending us a bridge license that will cover us in between now and the time that we renew whatever option we choose. So,
Do they have an actual document as far as agreements? The difference?
Yeah. Yeah, the easement, and Brittany, you may want to come up and help me out on this, but the easement is a long-term process, so it would be, I can't imagine how long it would take to get another easement, because you're talking about environmental studies and whatever else they mentioned, and that would be a long, expensive process. The license is a lot shorter process.
Is there anything from a usage standpoint the license would prohibit that's currently been in place?
Not that I know of, not that they indicated anyway.
What about term?
Yeah, I don't know what term they're going to propose for a license. They didn't really go into details on that.
Did they go into details on the term of if it was an easement?
It would be a long term, so you're talking, probably
25 to 30,
Yeah.
I think their newer ones that they were doing are the 30-year easements as opposed to the 25. Some of the existing easements we've had have been 20 and 25, and I think the new easements that they're doing are 30-year. For the license, you can do a 30-day, where you have 30 days basically if they decide to terminate, but they also said they were open to, I think, 60-day renewable license. But like he said, they very much were adamant that they do not look to get out of license issues. And for point of reference, on the rest of our day parks, I looked, the majority of our other day parks are done on a license. So it's not like we have everything else done on easements, and this would be a new thing that we're doing. We have multiple other of our day use parks that are done on license as opposed to the easements. We do still have a couple of easements, but a lot of our day parks are done on the license and haven't had any issues with those.
Yeah, I guess the term is a big question, though, obviously.
They also said that if they decide to kick us out, wasn't it like a 2-year process?
Oh, yeah. She said it was like forever long. And she really stressed, too, that the easement, the benefit of the easement would be more so if you were planning like major construction on the property, that a lot of times banks and things for loan purposes, required the easement as opposed to the license. But since we don't have any major construction plans at our day parks, I personally feel like, and I think, Jason, you were probably the same way, that the license would be sufficient for what we plan to do at the day parks.
What did they say if we do nothing? What happens?
Well, then we don't have any authority to be out there. We don't.
And I guess, would they have any responsibility to keep it maintained or anything, or would they just let it go?
That'd be in their discretion. Yeah. So they could, in theory, they could keep it up, or they could
just
the weeds
let it
take over.
deteriorate.
Yeah.
And we have Lakeland Wesley expiring in October,
In
I
October.
believe.
Lakeland Wesley is set
And
to
that's an
expire in
easement as well?
October. That one is also an easement, yes.
So,
So Buckhorn is currently expired. Lakeland Wesley will expire in October, and those are the 2 easements.
Again, I just think term is a key to knowing a term on the license I mean, because if you're having to pay $1,500 a year versus $20,000 one
I
time
think that's
for,
a one-time.
I don't understand.
I think the 1,500 is a one-time fee.
Yeah, it's one time.
Yeah, right, but if your term is up in 12 months, then it's going to come up again, you have to renew the license.
I don't think so,
No.
because as long as
One-
I've been
one
here, we've
time.
not done any renewals on any of the license at any of our other day
So
parks.
it's just a,
Flat fee,
just
one
an
time.
ongoing,
Well,
you got it till they say you don't have
I
it.
don't think we've ever paid for,
Interesting.
well, I don't know if we've ever had one.
It's an ongoing,
expired,
automatically
but we've never
renewable
paid for
license.
one.
Not in the past 6 years.
No.
So it's a $1,500 one-time fee versus, $20,000 to $30,000 every 30
I mean, the
years.
boat dock fees are a one-time.
Did they mention in the license if they outline specific responsibilities to hold that license as far as, I mean, obviously, we have a contract to mow them all, and this being one. But I know one that we looked at, I think was Buckhorn, the easement agreement stated that we needed to have something built within 5 years of that agreement. That
And it was
never happened.
built. That was when the original easement
One
was
of the
done,
originals,
yes.
before any of us were ever here. But did they mention anything like that as far as requirements on us?
Yeah, they did talk about that, and they said, obviously, that didn't happen, but it wasn't a concern of theirs that it didn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, they will have some conditions on there, but I don't anticipate that they're going to come in and say, well, you have to build this structure, or you have to do this, other than just maintaining it in good condition so the public can use it.
That's, I mean, shoot, you guys heard yesterday, talking about boat docks and the ones that are, basically disappearing. They're deteriorating, so I just didn't know, moving forward with those, what we would have to maintain. And obviously, if we have something out there, we want to keep it maintained, so it's for safety reasons, but access to the lake. So those are just kind of some questions that I had, and I know Brittany and I had talked about it.
I mean, it's not unusual that when we do anything that involves environmental studies, engineering, core samples, I mean, I know Southwest One, we had to go through all that, and we had to pay for that. That sounds to me, especially if you're talking about 25, 30 years, that's a long-term commitment. And I don't know who these individuals are. Are they the decision makers, or are they the make sure you fill out the right paperwork?
Jason, did you get a feel for that? Because I don't really know.
They weren't the ones that, I mean, they laid out the two options. So I took it that whichever one they choose they're going to help us to get that done. So I think the powers that be will approve either option.
Over a period of 6 to 9 months after you send it to them.
Yeah, now that's a given. It's going to take regardless.
With all due respect to TVA.
I just couldn't believe that there's a 2-year eviction process. A
2-year
2-year eviction process.
Yeah.
Good to know. So are they're going to send you an example? Is that what you said of what the license agreement would look like, or would you?
Well, I've asked for that, but I've never gotten it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that'd definitely be the way to go after you've reviewed it, of course, first, and with your recommendation.
Now, they're going to send a bridge license that covers this until whatever we decide.
Oh, that's what you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like we keep that tabled until we get those documents.
I can ask again for each document if you want me to.
We would have a copy of the easement, what an easement looked like, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, we've
send-
already got, well, I've looked at that
It's
last
the
week.
license.
And it hadn't changed.
Oh, I'm sure it has changed some. That's 30 years ago, or 25.
Oh, I thought they sent something when we first started this. I thought they sent something. Maybe they didn't. I thought we saw something.
No, they sent a letter, but
Okay, it didn't have a, it didn't have.
as
like
I asked them.
a renewal
yeah,
easement or
in
anything.
response, I said, can you give me an outline on what the difference is between, oh, that reminds me. I did ask them to give me a document, to write something up telling me the key differences between easement and license.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad yeah. So they're supposed to be sending me that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That'd be
that's what I want to see. Okay. All right, so then we'll just wait till you get that, and then
Yep.
we'll have further discussion on that. Item D, Motorola quote. Motorola was here last meeting. You should have it. It's about 160 pages. I didn't want to print it out, so it's on your drive. But I think the key thing is to just kind of go over what was discussed and what the court approved. Chris is going to be putting in the grant, KOHS grant, this week. And that shows our part. And obviously, we'll wait till we hear back from KOHS on the grant. The goal is to request funds to help cover the cost. And I think the way Chris has got it worded, it's going to pretty much put a response from KOHS. If there's going to be, all of it's going to be covered, or if 10%, 20% may be our part to put in. But it is, if you go through this and you read it, it does solve all of our problems. I know that, having 3 agencies on one channel, that's a nightmare. And so,
I would disagree with that. That's a necessity. That's a necessity.
and that's,
Calvert, Benton, and Marshall County need to be on the same radio channel.
yes.
No, we need to be able to hear dispatch
hold-
calls
gentlemen.
through other agencies and stuff.
First,
That's,
Yeah, talk groups, you can do it the way you've always done it, or you can peel off if you got something heavy and you can run your channel in there, your talk group or their talk group.
And the key here is understanding what actually this grant that we put in, the court approved to submit the grant. And what it does is it does provide better for those agencies. You still have that capability. And those agencies that want to benefit from that, we have some agencies that want to do DMR. They can still do DMR. But for us as a community, we're not putting an expense. I mean, this is a huge cost. To have a grant provide that cost for us, and to have cost sharing with the state police with an interoperability plan, which is a state plan, these agencies have bought into it. They're buying into this. It's not a failed system. It's that agency, what you bring to the table in the form of a radio. The infrastructure is what we're talking about.
what is it that would put us on different
The same
channels?
capabilities.
What is it that would put us on different channels?
Can you get up top a little bit that way?
Yeah,
everybody can hear?
go
All right. So the state has developed a statewide trunking system. Like you'll be able to leave Marshall County, you got prisoner transport
Sure,
in
yeah.
Pikeville, you can talk all the way across the state. But it basically, you have a VHF conventional system now where you have one channel, and that's what you do. But this takes 6 channel pairs and basically breaks it up into talk groups. So it's like going to a bank teller, and whichever line is open, you hit that particular channel, that talk group. You never know what frequency per se or channel you're talking on. You'll have a Marshall County Sheriff's talk group, you'll have a law enforcement talk group, Calvert have their own talk group. So you can stay on that same channel where you run calls together. But if you get an SRT activation, if Marshall County has a traffic stop, we got 10-3 on the radio, we can move Benton and
everybody
Calvert
else.
over here to their own talk groups and leave your channel open. We don't have that capability with that one channel right now, so there's a lot more to say with safety, but then you can set up talk groups where you can talk like a responder talk group, like everybody can talk on the same group, so you can roll up on a scene and you can talk to the fire department, you can talk to you can talk to dispatch, you can talk to everybody on that one talk group.
But daily operations
Stay the
will
same.
still be on the same channel.
Whatever you want to do, yep. Same talk
'Cause
group.
I need to be able to hear if they're dispatched.
Same
They
talk
need to be
group.
able to hear if we're dispatched.
Yep. Yep. And if you need to run back up with each other, say it'll work basically the same way. It just gives us an ability that we don't have because you can't get VHF frequencies anymore.
They're
They're
out.
pretty much gone. You'd have to, so with this talk group, it actually makes more spectrum, and we don't have to pay for the biggest portion of it, which is the core. And the core, there's two of them. There's one going to sit in E-Town and one going to sit in Frankfurt. And actually, there's redundancy to those cores, so by the time it's done, there'll be 4. So it would take a catastrophic event to leave us without radio communications. That core is the one that is what drives that system to say this talk group goes through on this frequency this time.
Mm-hmm.
Frequencies doesn't mean anything to us anymore. We'll have 6 channel pairs, and then it'll all be talk groups. And it's how they assign the talk groups. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's actually a more efficient system that lets us do things we can't do without completely doing a huge overhaul to get away from VHF. And it allows interoperability with state police, with FEMA, with state mutual aid, all the things that we need to do. And at about 1/8 of the cost it would do it to put our own system in. So the grant you're looking at,
What is
total
that?
cost for infrastructure is about $802,000. And for one agency to Band-Aid what you got, stay VHF, it costs you about $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 depending on what you do. And this fixes everybody's problem.
As far as fire departments, they're going to be able to,
Talk groups, whatever.
what are they going to have to do? That's my big concern is, those, I know they're not a concern as far as taxing districts, but, we still need to be able to talk to them. How does that work? What do they have to do? Are they going to have to buy radios to do this?
They can, on their own channel, I know some of them wanted to go DMR, they can do whatever they want to do on their own channel, but we will tone folks out and talk the way we always did on the fire channel. So you can't,
So that fire channel doesn't
yeah,
change?
you can't page digital. So we will always
Right.
page analog. So
Right.
that, we will support the paging of analog, and then the county fire channel will be digital or analog, whatever it has to happen,
Whatever
but they can
happens.
switch over. I mean, we have the ability to support that, plus we can also utilize what we have to beef up a backup system to talk on. So state police did it for years. They had a VHF radio in the car, then they had their UHF radio. If they needed to switch over, they could talk. So you have 2 separate systems that you could actually use if you got in a pinch and needed to do something with even more spectrum.
Now, Tim, I know that we talked to Captain Archer today, and he said that we would have to buy portable, or mobiles for our,
That's where everybody is kind of wanting to know.
That's
Just
not
to-
what Motorola had said last week, depending on what y'all, or last time they were here, depending on what y'all had and things of that nature. So they'd have to take a look at what you had, but they said, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, but didn't they say if it was P25, they should be okay?
Yeah, and
Portables may be an issue depending on the age of the portable and whether it's dual band or not.
yeah, and the state agency, what they're putting in their vehicle may be different because they're going into multiple counties.
right.
And there may not be the infrastructure in place. So I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think for Marshall County, in the proposal we had Motorola here, and it's what you and I talked about back in September. It solves that issue to where if you have an incident on, we talked about the trunking.
Yeah.
It solves that issue. Those
And not
agencies.
only that, it's going to be a year out by the time, at least a year out by the time they get us built in.
Right.
And all that stuff. So it gives us another grant cycle to go for whatever we need radio-wise, wherever we're deficient. And it's not a switch it over one day, you're on this now.
Yeah.
So we've got time to plan and move forward. But the sweet part about this deal is it's one tower to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
It solves the maintenance issues. It puts all that off on a maintenance agreement with Motorola, and we maintain our one tower through a maintenance agreement with them, and the rest of it's maintained by the state. So we never get in the position where we've got dilapidated equipment again. It's there.
So is the other system that we've got now, would that just be a redundant?
Yeah, when we could use it as a redundancy. There's a
backup.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do with it.
Because we'd have, we have to, that was a question I had, or Tim had this morning, how many bands can we get on we'll need a SRT band, court security needs a band.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can use your VHF that you have for that kind of stuff because you're going to be site where you're at. So I mean, you can take some of those repeaters, make mobile repeaters. Where there's a lot of things that we can do with the excess equipment or the we don't necessarily need to surplus it and get rid of it. There's a lot that we can do with what you already have. So when we put the Band-Aid on, that's kind of what we're looking in the future-wise, what we can do. We can take some of those, like court security, SRT, and repeat those channels on VHF, and you've already got the infrastructure in the cars and on your hip to do it.
Because they were talking about, like, we're not even licensed to use those channels the way we are now. So what do we need to do to switch that to what?
It's in the process of being done. It's a long, drawn-out process with the FCC, but that's in the process of, that's been applied for, and it's just waiting on their final approval for the updated license, so. But,
I think it's been 2-3 years ago, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, when they came down and gave a presentation at Post One. I don't know if anybody else, I sent the former EM director to it, but this dialogue has been out there. But we've got multiple agencies. And when you have, we know we have some fire departments that are clear, that's all they want to do is DMR. And as this board, to where we ended up today with our infrastructure, to make sure that we make decisions that we don't end up in the future in that same situation, those taxing districts, if they want to do DMR, they can. What Motorola has said, because they got the contract for the state of Indiana, is typically those agencies, once they see the actual communication that's put in, one by one, they slowly start to move into that system. And so from a cost perspective, I mean, this as you go through and you read it, $802,000 for our community is not, especially if we can get majority of that funded through the grant. That is not, after our meeting yesterday, that is actually something that we need because this is an issue, and to try to shoulder it on our taxpayers at times like this is going to be very challenging.
I'm almost ready to submit the grant. I got a little bit more work to do on the narrative, but everything, all the letters of endorsement, everything else is done. Finished up the equipment list and the cost portion of it, so I got the budget table and the little bit left in the narrative to be ready to submit, but it's got to be postmarked by 5 o'clock on Friday, so I should finish it up this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and get that out.
Chris, what if this system is installed and there's not adequate coverage? I realize none of those are 100%, but what if we have dead areas that aren't acceptable? Where do we stand?
We sit in a presentation with Motorola, and they address the areas that we would need to do to fix those things if they can. So they're in this quote, there is a coverage test for portables, on-street coverage, and then they showed us several areas that we could do, different things that we could do to increase that. But there will always be dead spots, but you're basically trading one tower that we have for 11 more around us. So we will have 12 towers total on this system. But you will still have some issues, and they showed us radios that we could go that would actually allow us to transition over to LTE or over to Wi-Fi if you go inside a building. There's a lot of things that we can do, but first we have to discover where those areas are and what's cost effective for those particular areas.
If I'm not mistaken, the national standard is 95%, and I think that's what Motorola presented. So they presented.
That's the National Public Safety Standards, 95%.
They presented a national standard coverage, and you're going to have dead space. I mean, you're going to have, and what I mean by dead space, you may walk into a structure that is just, you're not going to get out. It could be concrete, it can be metal.
That's where the Wi-Fi comes in handy. Some even FirstNet has some issues. FirstNet, T-Mobile, and some of those others have the ability to use your radio on your phone. So if you have phone signal and you don't have the radio, you can transition and do that. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but again, we have to see where those areas are, how bad those areas are, and what we need to do to address them, or find a workaround for them. They mentioned in-car repeaters if those areas were bad. They mentioned those radios with Wi-Fi. They mentioned mic extenders. They mentioned different radios. So I think it was like 30 minutes they talked about coverage areas and filling those gaps.
Take,
From everything I've gathered from, and I guess just for planning ahead. I'm excited about this. This is anything that's better radio coverage. For planning ahead, just what we need to plan, because from what I've talked to from state police and from radio companies is that the radios we have right now will not work on that frequency. So do we have any kind of estimate on cost? Does the grant cover
The grant
just
right now
this
covers
infrastructure only?
Yep,
So
infrastructure only. But like I say, we've got a year that's their minimum deadline is a year. So when we move forward with this, they're going to show us what our gaps are, and then we know what we need to go out and get afterward. And, like I said, I'm going outside what I normally do to do this because it needs to be done, and I'll do it again to try to get y'all radios or whatever we need to get it funded through grant funds. There's monies, there's things out there that we can do, but the infrastructure, I mean, do you put the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken? We got to have something to talk on either way, and the infrastructure is where it's failing, and we've thrown money at the bad infrastructure, so we kind of need to put that infrastructure out there, get the chicken first, and then start going after the eggs. So, and transition as we can.
I believe on road, they recommend keeping our current infrastructure. They recommended keeping it as
The single tower in Graftonville with the substantial reworks, a microwave link on it to link up with the other sites that are around us. I think currently there's 11 tower sites that we would benefit from. So that tower would have to have extra guy wires, be extra sturdy to hold that 6-foot satellite dish. I think there's 2 of them going on it. So it would have to be beefed up for that. So that's inside this grant. And I also have $88,000 from the grant last year to try to put a Band-Aid on the fire department's channels. And it would be a waste of money to do that if we get this grant. And I've asked for permission to allow that $88,000 to be spent on this project with Homeland Security. And they said that I could change the scope of my work by filling out some paperwork. So we have $88,000 to help us a little bit if we have to do some unforeseen tower remediation, or if there's some piece of equipment that we do wind up having to have. So there is a little bit there, and then we can always go for more. But this is the way the state wants to go, so I really feel strongly that anything we throw at it right now will be funded. Maybe not all the way. So like the judge was saying in the grant, I'm trying for it all. But, a 10% match, a 20% match, I got to get in that magic range because we've got a short window and we got a little bit of money. There's $4 million for 138 projects, and I'm asking for 802. Minus a 10% match. If I could up my match to 20, that would get us down in that $600,000 range, plus the 88 I have. So we're creeping down toward that area that I've seen them fund. Like I believe it was Lexington got $464,000 last year. It was the biggest grant that was submitted. It was for emergency medical training. But 802 is going to be a stretch, but it is the project they want. It follows the statewide communication plan. We would be the first group to actually go on it, and there is almost $250,000 worth of discounts to get that first signee. So it benefits us to go now, and it benefits us because it's less to maintain. And it over 20, 30 years, we don't have to sit here and do this ever again because we got one neck to choke in the vendor that we hired to maintain it, and then the state police has the state through the state police has the rest of the structure. So don't get confused. The state police has the radio techs to maintain it, but it is a state project, not necessarily the state police. So it's they just have the radio staff on hand to actually take care of that. It's already been approved by the QUIC committee. They're good to go. They're excited about the project, getting somebody signed on. And I know that Hart County put in to get signed on as well in a different post district, but they don't have the infrastructure over there, so they're sitting and waiting until it's building out from west to east. So like most things, it will start here and move across the state. So Hart County's there, ready to go on in their region, but they don't have the infrastructure yet. So
we're in phase 1.
Yep.
And Western Kentucky is in phase 1.
You think they'll require us to get new radios because they denied ours? Because, the 5 they just denied, they said it didn't meet. That's what we have down the board, all of our radios.
we have to look and see what we got. If your
NX.
mobiles are dual band,
NX5 5700s or 5500s, they were all.
I just need to look at them. If they're dual band, they'll work, and then we just need to start phasing them out as we move forward. But like I say, we just need an inventory of what we got and
I
go
mean,
from
most of our
there.
radios are new. They're all the 5700s and,
And then start planning. I mean, if I got to write a grant for some radios next year or whatever, but it all hinges on getting this one. So
I just didn't know if we had to agree to move that way and get new
now it
radios
doesn't matter
before.
what
If the
brand
quick
you
committee
go with,
denied the radios,
as
would
long
they
as it
deny the
works.
grant for the
No, I don't think
infrastructure?
there's any agreement like that. They didn't make that statement. They said that obviously they preferred the Motorola on their system, but they weren't
Right.
going to make anybody buy a Motorola. I think that was the actual terminology. He said he was a sales guy and he would prefer to sell us Motorola,
Sure.
but there was no requirement to do that, as long as they have that capability. And there may be some things that we have to phase out and address moving forward, but I mean, we got to see what we got and kind of go from there. And I'm willing to put my neck out there and help y'all and get this done, because it's got to be done. We've got to do something. And, I really do feel like we stand a good chance to get this grant. And they got to have that first person through the door. They got to have somebody to come in and say, look at what this community's doing, look at the coverage in this community. So that first person through the door is going to make those benefits. And then once people are signing on, those discounts, those early adopters, all that stuff's gone. And it's actually, the quote's actually over $1 million. And they dropped it down to 802 and some change. And like I say, in the grant, I'm going to write for the whole thing. And, if you can't fund it all, put a paragraph in there. If you can't fund it all, fund what you can, and then we'll go from there. But, does the court want me to approach the 10% or 20% match? I think that's a question we need to take a look at. 20% is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, 160,000, something like that?
Well, considering we just seen this today, it's a lot to absorb.
Well, this is you talking about the quote?
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking about the grant. The grant the court's already approved.
What do you think we got a better shot at getting? 10%?
The lower the money that I can ask for, the better shot
Better
we'll have.
shot?
I feel they'll fund if we go in full, I feel they'll fund a portion of it, but I don't feel we'll get $802,000 because there's $4 million to split between 138 projects. Generally, they fund from $100,000 to $400,000 or $500,000. That's about $500,000 is the biggest one I can remember seeing. And like I say, Lexington Metro just got $464 last year. So the closer I can get to that number, the more apt we are to get it funded fully. But for $160,000, a $1 million radio infrastructure, it's not too bad.
And, the quote that we got from Jennings was, I think, 325 to 350. So if you had that money and you put it with whatever grant money that we were to get, you'd get close to that.
Yep.
802.
And I'll just go ahead and tell you, I've been squirreling away money on the upfit. I've been saving money in every line I can save it in, and I've got quite a bit there that I would be willing to, once the center is, throw right back on top of this.
20% is
160 and some change, I believe.
is that how it's
With
written?
10%, I've got what I'm asking for down to 722. But it does require a match. It's up to you what it is. The minimum is 10.
My opinion would be 20%.
Whatever increases our chances of getting it, I think it's the direction
Yeah.
we
I
need
was
to
going to say,
go.
does that would probably play a factor, wouldn't it?
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, if they're looking at the skin you're going to put in the game,
Mm-hmm.
as well as what they're going to fund. So the bigger the match that you have, and the financial impact on this, it takes what we're currently trying to maintain and don't have the money to maintain down to a $30,000 maintenance contract a year that can be split if need be, or however between the other communities if they want to, or we can just whatever we got to do. But it significantly decreases that cost, and it maintains our equipment over the long haul. And it's a state system, so the other towers will not dilapidate. They'll maintain them. It's like a $235 million project that they're funding, the backbone of.
Is there any other counties? Are we kind of the only one here that would have our own tower?
Well, that's the deal. You wouldn't see what it is. Their
And-
system's built for rural areas, so they don't really care too much about running down the middle of Main Street. So in the middle of our county, in the development areas, they're lacking in coverage. So they use our tower when they're traveling through to bounce their signal off, and it creates a better environment for them. And then when we're in the rural area, it creates a better environment for us. So you bring one site to the picture, and they get their one site that increases their towers the less they have to build.
Right.
And then we get the benefit of all the towers around us, and there's 11 now, and I think they're adding 2 more.
In phase one, we're the only ones that are
Mhm.
Kind of
discussing
bid
it.
so far.
Yep. Hart County did put in a grant for one, but they're in a different post district, and it's moving from over here to over there. So it will start here and go east. So there'll be an early adopter in central Kentucky, but we're the first ones that are where we could start the process and go live with this. We get the grant in a year and a half. Be totally transitioned over, because the year they would give it to us, and then obviously before they transfer it over, we would want to test it and make sure that it's working and we're satisfied with it before we put all our eggs in that basket. And they're prepared to do that and professionally do that.
So you're going to ask for it all, you're just asking what's the maximum amount that we would
Oh yeah, I'm going in
match,
all of it.
is what you're saying.
But if I can get closer to that number, they may fund it all. But asking for $802,000 and knocking it down to $722, that's almost a third of the money gone from the 138 projects. So it depends on what other folks are asking for.
Okay, so you are saying you wouldn't ask for the full amount?
No, I'm going to ask for the full amount, but in the grant, in the narrative of the grant, I'm going to ask them to fund what they'll fund if they can't fund it all.
Okay.
And then
So
we'll
as
see
a
where we
safety,
are.
So
basically
again,
as a
you're-
safety net.
You're
to not-
saying, yeah, what's the max that we would
Yeah.
fund?
Well, I mean, the 20%.
In a
is-
match for the
it
grant.
Would be
In a
our
match,
match.
yeah, that's what I mean.
And then if we get a partial funding, or if we get a full funding, we would have to revisit what we need to do.
What we
Any-
don't want to do is
Miss
say,
the opportunity.
we want you to fund it all, and then they throw it out.
Yeah, it just seems weird, and as a person who negotiates, that I give up my negotiating power right off the bat, like, I'd
Well-
like it all, but if you don't like that, we'll pay 160, you know what I'm saying?
Now, I
mean,
know
it just
exactly what you're
seems,
saying, but, the thing
seems
though is,
there's really-
counterintuitive to me, but.
it's
and-
also a peer-reviewed process, so the people who are competing for the grants are
Or
the
the
ones who are
same people
reviewing the
that,
grants.
yeah.
So if it takes money out of their pocket, they're gonna kick out the large grant. If they can fund more, they're gonna fund more with the smaller grants.
I got you.
But we will get some money. I'm fairly confident that we'll get some money. I'd be shocked if they don't fund it all or fund a large portion of it.
But the quote that Motorola sent, and you can read it too, Eddie, we'll get it to you, but it's 160 pages, so I didn't print it out, but it's on the drive. Just go through, it's a follow-up
A lot
from,
of pictures, no, yeah.
it's
so-
a follow-up from
Did you get this, Ed?
their presentation.
Here.
So, all right.
I got it. Coverage maps in there, there's an equipment list, it's everything in there. We will keep our same infrastructure that we have in the radio room, except for we will have to change our radios, so, and that is in here as well, but all of this tells you the coverage levels, everything that's gonna happen. And a lot of the resistance in the beginning to this project is areas like Bowling Green, who went off on their own and got a trunk radio system for about $12 million. They charge user fees per radio. So everybody thought there was going to be a user fee per radio, so everybody was kind of shying away from this to see what happened. There's no user fees per radio, per hookup, per department. The only thing they require is, you keep your stuff maintained, and Motorola gave us a quote for that particular maintenance.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right?
Thank you. The deadline is this week, so we'll get that sent off.
Yeah.
Item E, Perfection Group proposal. The previous court, again, that's, it's on your drive. The previous court's proposal was to have Perfection Group work with my office as far as a contract The contract that we got, obviously, the pricing for material has changed since the approval. Priorities within the county superseded. I think this initially was something that was discussed that basically took a back seat, for lack of better terms. But with the pricing changes, I think the court needs to reevaluate the previous court's decision. I did get a quote from, or for the roof, had a company go upstairs, look at the roof, and let's, oh, I had that on here. Is it D? Yeah, courthouse roof quote is on their new business. But in Perfection Group's proposal, it was to completely tear out the roof, and we don't need to do that. So I'd like to have some discussion on this as far as what the previous court wanted and where we are today with our assets. This was I think in 17, this was a $6 million proposal, but those pricings have changed. Obviously, our structures have changed, and just on the roof alone, we've had a second set of eyes looking at it. They do not recommend that we need to tear out the entire roof. But this is kind of in conflict if we were to go into putting a layer on the roof. We can get into more of that on item D. I think this needs to be discussed before we move forward with item D under new business. My recommendation would be that the court get rid of this previous action item from the previous court so that we can start all over. That would be my recommendation.
And that specific action item is
The court
Just,
approved for judge to negotiate a contract with Perfection Group, which we never negotiated one.
Right.
okay.
But that's kind of where it just stands right now.
Yeah.
I guess that would be, would it be rescinding that action?
I would think the court would be in a position to not go deny the. Yeah, it's not a contract. I guess it would be to negotiate that contract.
But isn't action?
Yes. Yeah, it takes action because this is on the table. Part of this quote or part of this action was involving the roof.
I think you need to have a vote on it.
Absolutely, yes. Does that make sense?
I'm glad it does to you because it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the previous court, if I'm understanding correctly, the previous court gave the judge the authority to enter into a contract. What he is saying is if we don't want to do that, we need to take a vote to say we don't want to go into this. Basically, absolving what the previous court did. Is that correct?
Correct.
With this perfection, whatever it is.
Perfection Group, yeah.
Perfection Group.
Because this involved more than just our roof here.
Right.
And I had, the court, we discussed having an architect. Well, I had a company come in. They have a company that has their own architect. And they went up and they looked at the roof. Perfection is saying they'll take out the entire, go all the way down to the baseboards. I mean, just completely take it out, which obviously the costs back then were several $100,000. And this other company came in and was like, we looked at it, and you don't need to do that. So before I could go into any agreements with them, this needs to be dealt with. Right now, this is the directive from the court. Just like what Justin was saying.
All of it, every single
And it's
item
every-
in that proposal. All that, is that what you're saying?
Yes, because all the
Every-
pricing has changed too.
Yeah,
So
because it was
the judicial
very
is
all
it was
encompassing,
$17
$7 million.
17. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
over 6 million.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was substantial.
I move that we rescind the action of the previous court.
Second.
The motion be to remove rescind the action of the previous court regarding perfection groups. Would that be sufficient? Okay, and there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, item A, Merco, notice to proceed. Let's read this. Notice to proceed, Merco Utility Service Project, Marshall County Sanitation District, Graftonville West Sewer Expansion Phase 1. You are hereby notified to commence work in accordance with the agreement dated April 7th, 2021, on or before Monday, May 3rd, 2021, and you are to complete the work within 90 consecutive calendar days thereafter. The date of full completion of all work is therefore July 31st, 2021.
Any court action?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve the notice to proceed by Merco.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B is the resolution Southwest One Pad Ready Site. Josh, I'm going to let you, I know we talked about it yesterday, but I want you to make the announcement.
Good morning. Thanks, Judge. As you all know, and we talked about this yesterday, some time ago, we decided to, at the court's direction, apply for a grant through the Kentucky Product Development Initiative, which is a grant funded by the Cabinet for Economic Development. It's the only product development initiative grant that the state of Kentucky has, and it's specific to improving industrial parks or getting an industrial park or improving access, those kinds of things, infrastructure projects for industrial parks. When we applied, we didn't know that COVID was going to happen, and so the state wrangled back those dollars and made the decision not to fund the projects, but to go ahead and go through with the application process to get so that communities could work with Site Selection Group out of Dallas and get a good critique of their projects and so on and so forth. So, with that said, we made it through the first round of applications. We had a virtual site visit, which went very well. Site Selection Group was very positive and optimistic about the marketability of Southwest One and the project that we applied for, which is the Pad Ready Site project, which would be kind of the phase 2 portion of the Southwest One industrial park development. So shortly after that, we were, or actually just recently notified that the Cabinet for Economic Development has decided to fund 3 projects, and Southwest One Industrial Park was one of those 3 projects to be funded. Now, when I brought this to you all, we didn't know that it was going to be funded. We basically did it to familiarize Site Selection Group with our site. And for those that aren't familiar, Site Selection Group is a site selection consulting group that works specifically with companies on finding locations for expansions or new projects throughout the U.S. and probably internationally. So, with that said, there were 27 applications for the Kentucky Product Development Initiative. There were 14 site visits, and there were 3 awards, and we were one of 3 awards for the Pad Ready site project. So that's good news. We're excited about that, and certainly it's always good to get positive feedback from site selector and from the Cabinet for Economic Development. Should we move forward with this project, this will give us the ability to work with the Cabinet for Economic Development to certify this site as a build-ready site, which would give us that much more marketability for projects. It would also allow KLED to look into some more very site-specific marketing programs. So I think today there's a process for this that the Cabinet has requested. This project will be funded through the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority. That finance authority has an economic development fund, which is where the grant funds will come for this project. In order to access those funds, we have to have that 50% match commitment, a resolution passed by the Fiscal Court, and then an application submitted to the KEDFA board for their approval. KEDFA meets once a month. I believe it's still the last Thursday of the month. So as soon as we can get that processed, if it's the will of the court to do so, we'll get that application in and we'll see where it goes. So anyhow, for those that may be listening and not know, this project would incorporate a pad-ready site construction of 120,000 square foot to be expandable. This would include an extension, a dense grade extension of Southwest 1 Boulevard across Game Branch, where there would be an aluminum box culvert installed. So that would give us access to the backside of Southwest 1 Industrial Park, and also give us a pad that we could specifically market to those medium-sized manufacturers. So congratulations, and like I say, I think the judge has a resolution to read. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have before he does so, though.
It's a good position to be in.
I can only apologize, Judge, that we didn't know this was going to be funded beforehand, but again, we keep running into good problems to have with Southwest 1 and economic development, and that's not a bad thing. So.
That's right. And it also says a lot about our community and what we have to offer.
Correct.
In this region. I'll just go ahead and read this. A resolution of the Marsh County Fiscal Court authorizing the acceptance of an economic development bond, EDB, grant from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development for pad-ready site construction, Southwest 1 Boulevard dense grade extension and box culvert project at Southwest 1 Industrial Park in Benton, Kentucky, in the amount of $285,240.50, and approving and authorizing execution of a grant agreement. Whereas the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development is authorized to grant funds for industrial development in order to create jobs in the state, and whereas an incentive for the Marsh County Fiscal Court to construct a pad-ready site boulevard extension and box culvert crossing at Southwest 1 Industrial Park in Benton, Kentucky, the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development offered the Marsh County Fiscal Court an economic development bond grant in the amount of $285,240.50. And whereas this particular Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development Incentive Program requires approval by the Marsh County Fiscal Court of a grant agreement with the county as the local government recipient of the grant funds. And whereas the approval of this grant agreement to benefit Southwest 1 Industrial Park with the Marsh County Fiscal Court as the pass-through entity is the best interest of the Marsh County, Kentucky. Now therefore be it resolved by the Marsh County Fiscal Court as follows. The county hereby accepts the grant from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development to benefit Southwest 1 Industrial Park in the amount of $285,240.50 with the Marsh County Fiscal Court agreeing to act as a local government pass-through entity for the grant funds. The Marsh County Judge Executive is authorized and directed to execute the grant agreement and all other documents necessary to effect this transaction, and the County Judge Executive is to act for and in the name of the Marsh County Fiscal Court throughout the administration and performance thereof. This resolution shall be in full force and effect upon signature and recordation.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Again, this is a good position to be in, and hopefully we'll get something moving on that. Item C, sanitation road department new hires.
There's 5 of these. I don't know if you guys want to do them all in one or separate. What was the? Individuals there. It's,
I'd like to do it individually because one of them is a relative of mine.
Sure.
And I think I need to recuse myself.
Sure.
Any conflict of interest.
Yes, sir, we'll do it. First one is for the road department, Danny Sutton. This is a seasonal hire at $12 an hour.
Move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Second one is also for the road department, seasonal, Jackie Darnell at $12 an hour.
Move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that I recuse myself on that one.
Who knew that you were kin to a Darnell? Wow.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Third is also for the road department, seasonal new hire at $12 an hour.
Move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is also for the road department, Jason Clark. Will be the seasonal mosquito sprayer at $12 an hour.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
That one also is 16 hours a week for 30 weeks, so just so you all know. And the final one is for the sanitation district. This is a full-time new hire at $15.50 per hour plus the $269 per pay period premium.
Was this a replacement or what's?
Yes, this replaces William Keeling. That
Okay, that
yeah.
was where that was
Yep.
from.
It's just it's a even swap.
Okay.
It's Jerry Kemp.
Okay. Move we approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's go to item D, courthouse roof quote. It may be down on my desk. Yeah, do you mind?
I move for a recess while he go gets that.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good. All right. We'll go ahead and call court back to order. This is from Trueline Roofing. Trueline Roofing is pleased to submit the following proposal for the roof replacement project at 1101 Main Street, Benton, Kentucky. The price is to furnish all labor, material, and equipment needed to perform the following work, with exception to any additional agreed-upon changes or upgrades. Scope of work: demo and remove only necessary edge metal and membrane to complete the following work. Mechanically fasten a Duro Blue Slip sheet vapor barrier on top of the existing EPDM roof membrane. Mechanically fasten 50 mil Duro Tough PVC membrane and weld all seams in accordance with the manufacturer's specifications for a watertight, waterproof installation. Install any corner, T-joint, vent, and curb flashing and sealants along with any other accessories needed to complete watertight seal. Provide a 20-year labor and material warranty. This warranty is to guarantee the building owner that the PVC roofing system will not leak water due to failure of the membrane as a result of ordinary weather conditions. Install 24-gauge two-piece compression metal around the perimeter and terminate the roofing system. As previously discussed, for an additional price, we will demo the east and west side obsolete internal gutter system, dispose of and remove all debris from site. We will replace any damaged decking that we may find for an additional cost of $3.20 per square foot. We will provide trained safety personnel on the ground, street, and roof, in addition to trained equipment operators. This proposal is good for 30 days due to market volatility. The proposed price was $104,822. That's True Line Roofing. When we sat down and had a meeting with them, the company that they use, the 50 mil Dural Tough PVC membrane, they have architects that are within that company, and so their architects, I know the court had talked about having an architect involved in it. And CMS, you had sent an email to them, and what'd they say, 6 to 8 weeks?
I think it was longer than that. They said they were, basically, I said, as you all told me to go into, have them put specs together so we can either put it to bid or we know more specifics. And they said that they were 2 to 3 months out, and they really couldn't give us a good indication of when they would be able to put some time and energy into this. So that's when we started talking to True Line.
So they have architects within that company that owns the Dural Tough PVC membrane. So that, I feel, still facilitates the court's needs to have the architects involved. But this was a proposal, as read, to put this membrane across the roof and the deal to flashing issues that we are having.
Brad, do you want to, since that's above the 30,000, you want to explain?
Sure. Yeah, so we are a member of TIPS, Cooperative Purchasing Group. So basically, what is it called, Duro
Tough PVC.
Okay, so that company has been awarded that contract, so we don't have to do the competitive bidding for this work. And so basically, we hand this over to TIPS, and they work with the contractor, and so it just takes away the bidding process.
Which we had bid this out.
Yes.
Already, right? And decided not to accept the bids that we had. So didn't that give us the ability to, at that point, to go out and attain another bid within that same action?
I think the discussion was having an architect
Yeah.
kind of review it, in which they did. CMS is who the architect firm, because we were already using them on but with them being, obviously, CMS is extremely busy. In the correspondence that we got from them, we felt that this was an issue that we needed to get as a priority, and they understand that in their correspondence with us. And this was kind of the glove fit in the hand, because they have their architects within the company. So, but the work to be performed is not completely removing the entire roof. There's a huge expense to that, and they did some core samples. I had them go up and do some core samples, and they identified that the roof structure underneath is pretty much in good condition. Now, they did state in here if they come across anything, because we are dealing with water, if there is some damage, that they would deal with that damage. But this is what they recommended, and it's an industry leader, so.
It's time to crap or get off the pot with this. I just speak bluntly. We've been kicking this can down the road, and we've got to fix this courthouse roof.
I think the issue we had with the bids is there was no guidance on what they were bidding. They were assuming what needed to be done and what we wanted done. I would like to see this bid out. We have several capable roofing companies right here in the county. We have some guidance on this one as to the scope of the work now that we didn't have before, but that's my opinion.
Pass that.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to take a look at that and table it to the next meeting? It's good for 30 days. Is that possible, or?
We've got, we're going to have a special call meeting next week. So,
Okay.
if y'all want to table it till next week.
I move to table it till next week.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So you can email that to us?
Yeah.
After. Thanks.
I mean, I will say, if we're going to put this out to bid after just reading the quote, that puts Truline at a disadvantage, but change order, multiple.
It doesn't do any of the inside. It has nothing to do with what we've had to do inside, right?
Yeah, that's another, they think it's a window issue.
Oh.
And this stairwell over here,
That's due to the water coming in off of the.
That one, yeah.
This one over here, they're thinking is a window. So we have multiple things going on. And this is the newer
Side.
Change order, multi-purpose building. Where's that at? Did we get the, did they give a final? Did you guys get a copy of this?
I mean, it's on the drive.
Okay.
To decrease it, essentially, and this is decreasing, taking that item off and being done.
Yeah,
Both Quentin and,
Let me read this. This contract is changed as follows. Credit for electrical work not completed. That's because, I guess the server room's not finished, waiting on components there. Deduct $3,169.70. Replace door 029, add $833.94 for a total change order of $2,335.76.
negative. All right. 2,335.76 below. Yeah. Move we approve.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Transfers, item F.
Okay, there's a transfer from, our CARES money to the jail of $80,000, which is not budgeted, of course. I assume that that's what the court wanted, since that's what we've done the last two times that the jail has needed funds. There's about $83,000 in their bank account right now without this, and they have about 13 grand of, court bills today, and then I have to do payroll match in the next couple of days, and that's close to 90. So what's in there right now will not cover those two things. The other three are all budgeted transfers of occupational tax. One's to the Fund 79, which is in the general bank account, 214. It's already budgeted. Occupational tax to general, 100,000 already budgeted. Occupational tax to road, 150 already budgeted. And over on the right-hand side, you should be able to see the kind of I try to keep that updated so you know where we're at on what was budgeted and how much of that budgeted amount has been transferred over. And then there's a transient tax transfer of $13,457.05.
Move we approve the transfers.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Bills and claims. Is there any reason to deny payment of the bills and claims? Let the clerk record that the bills and claims are to be paid.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I have a hot off the press litigation update that I need to discuss with the court in executive session.
All right.
Move we go to
Motion.
executive session.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.